Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I've got for you Dan De Vries, and he's a top career development coach coming out of Australia. He's got a lot of experience, and this is for the professionals, executives, people that are in the audience. I'm happy to welcome Dan to the show. Welcome, Dan.
It's great to be here, even from the other side of the world.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, I tell everybody about who you are, what you do, or, and how the audience can benefit from your expertise.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Dan. I'm a career coach. I do generally focus on the younger generation. However, anyone who's making a career change or trying to move into management or into an exec role, anyone who's trying to make a significant change in their career and learn all of the stuff that if you've ever been in an exec role, you'll know there's a lot of stuff that you don't really get taught anywhere and you just need to pick up along the way. And so I basically help people with all those unspoken rules and navigating those interesting relationships and those interesting conversations and those unwritten rules that most of us learn the hard way, myself included. And so I help people with that because I figure if you can't learn it in school or uni or somewhere formally, then you need to learn it from someone who's been through those situations before. If you can save yourself some time getting to where you want to go, to me, that's an absolute no-brainer decision. It's something you can easily make and you can get involved and achieve your goals sooner. And that's really my passion is really around helping people achieve their goals. And the goals are not just money driven. It's making more money is awesome. I highly recommend it, but also creating a meaningful career for you that gives you that satisfaction that helps you want to be going every day, that you're engrossed in, that you're engaged in, that you, dare I say, love and enjoy. So that's what I do. And that's why I do it. The feedback that I get from people, just receiving those phone calls, even a year later, 2 years later, I'll get a random phone call from someone I've worked with. And they go, "Hey, Dan, I just achieved this. Thank you so much." And there's almost no better feeling than receiving that phone call. Personally, it's really super rewarding and having that personal connection. It's just so satisfying. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, you definitely have a knack and definitely a passion for the game. And while you were talking about this, especially for the those that are interested in just getting to the next level, but seem to hit a ceiling. So it reminded me of this. There's conscious competence, unconscious competence. Then there's conscious and unconscious incompetence. And when you were describing this dilemma where people aren't aware of what they're doing to that are sabotaging themselves to get that promotion or that raise. Where do you step in? Obviously, there's unconscious incompetence is like their blind spots. They just don't know. So how do you fit in? How do you come into the picture? What has to happen? An intervention or what?
Typically, because all my coaching is one-on-one, the first stages, we get to know each other because you really need to know someone before you can help them understand and help steer them in the right direction. And I build a strong personal relationship with every single person that I work with. It's really hard not to when you're spending a lot of time together each week. What I typically find is that some people start from that unconscious incompetence, but most people don't, because most people that I end up with are aware that they're missing something, but I don't know how to get here. I must be missing something. They haven't come to that realization yet. So those people are still in that discovery phase of discovering that they have a problem, or at least that they have something that they want to achieve and they don't know how to get there. The people that I typically start working with are aware that they're missing something. And so we go through a process of really discovering that. There's a lot of reflection time. There's a lot of really thinking about what matters to you as a person, understanding your own personal values, because if you don't know what's important to you, and I guess, let me just add to that by saying that everyone thinks that they automatically just know what they care about. They just do. But if you go, "Okay, hey, Chris, so tell me, what are the 5 most important things to you?" And people will just go, "Oh, it's not immediately available." We all make this assumption that we just know ourselves and we know what we care about. When really, you do need to stop and think and sit down and go, "Actually, let's have a real good, deep think about this before I can truly know and be confident that these things that I'm going to tell you I care about, I do actually care about. And they're not surface level and they're not frivolous." Most people don't have frivolous values because almost by definition, our values are deeply, meaningfully important to us as individuals. And people say, oh, I care about my family. How does that fit into your career? And it does fit into your career. Don't get me wrong. But the way that I like to do it is we go through a list of single words and we come up with the things that matter to you most. And it's a really hard process. I've done it myself many moons ago. And it's hard to go through a big list of individual words, things like passion, joy, change creation, creativity, even value, money, desire, joy. There's so many different words that we go through, and it's finding the ones that you connect with best. I try to say, bring it down to 3 or 4. I personally couldn't get it below, say, 8 for a long time. And so that's the process to start with, is to know what you truly do value, what's important to you as a person, because that is going to shape the way that you're going to try to advance your career. It's going to shape the kinds of decisions that you make. You don't want to be chasing something that doesn't align with these innate, personally held values and beliefs, because you'll end up there and you go, oh God, I've ended up somewhere where I don't want to be. This is terrible. And you'll have been chasing something that doesn't align with your personal values. And you'll get there and then you'll think, I've wasted my time. So that's where it starts. It starts with the self-realization. It starts with that self-awareness. It starts with really thinking deeply about it and challenging. That's half of my job there, is challenging you on those beliefs to make sure that you really do feel that connection to them, so that we can use them as the basis for creating the structure for moving forward of how are we going to approach that step change in your career? How are we going to achieve it? And how are we going to make sure that when you get there, you're happy with it?
Yeah, sorry, just because of the background, but it's really interesting because what you're describing is this area where you're getting clients and at the stage of conscious incompetence. They know they're not doing,
Mm.
they're doing something wrong, so they're actually proactive. It really reminds me of my own, because like I also worked with a career coach, and it's really interesting because it was exactly how you described it. Because I was like, yeah, I want to be financially successful and I want to help people, and she was like, being a doctor isn't the only way to do that. There's a lot of different ways of helping people, but my paradigm
Yep.
was only being a doctor can you help people, which was so she helped me to open up the different options. The next question I have for you is, a lot of people, coaching takes a significant upfront investment in time. And some people are like, they don't want to pay. They think they can do it on their own and they don't need a coach. And so what's your response to this? Because you described this thing where you can fast and shortcut the path to success, but people, like, the path is there, but they don't want to go through it. Why is that?
Well, why do people want to go the hard way? That's a very interesting question. Some people need to go the hard way, to be quite honest. It's the only way some people will be able to take that journey. I would prefer not to take the hard way myself. I prefer to take the shortest, most reasonable. I want to be efficient with the use of my time, because we all only have so much time, right? And there are some people, yes, there is a significant upfront investment. Absolutely. And not everyone can afford it and not everyone can justify it. But however, the money that you put in it's one of the highest return on investment kind of things you can do. And you know how they say investing in yourself is always the best place to start investing? This is investing in yourself by getting help from someone who can help you overcome those hurdles and those barriers. The hard part for most people is seeing how that's possible. They go, but what are you going to do? How are you going to help me? I don't get it. And of course you don't get it because you've never been through it before. It's almost impossible to understand until you have been through it and you've done it. It does require a leap of faith. It does require an acceptance that there's a risk that I might not get what I'm paying for here, or I don't really understand. Like any investment, it involves risk. But with that said, people that are ready to take that risk, they're ready to take that chance, that's almost half of the battle won. You put your hand in your pocket, you commit to achieving those outcomes. I help you get there and we do it together. So most of the time, as soon as you can get past that mental barrier of, okay, I really need something. I'm not sure what it is. Like, this person's telling me that they can help me do this thing, or okay, I'm just going to do it. And that switch, that flick of that switch, that decision immediately puts you on the path to success. It just does, because you've decided to take action and you've decided to consciously take on a little bit of pain, right? Paying money is a pain point. You're like, oh, I've got to outlay this money that I had to work hard for. It's just part of life. It takes time and effort to earn money, and it takes pain to earn money. And now I'm going to give it to this person on the internet, and they're going to help me to do what I want to do. It's difficult. It's not like I'm going to this big reputable corporation, and obviously I can see everything that they've done, and they're a big business, and it fills them with a little bit more confidence when you're dealing with a corporation. But simply by deciding I will experience some level of pain to achieve my result, my outcome that I want to do, you've immediately put in more mental strength, and you've put in more commitment because you've decided that you're going to take this on. That's the very beginning of success, because you're now going to do the work, going to put in the effort, because you've like, hey, I've paid for this, I'm going to do it now. It's a little bit different to say buying a gym membership, where people think, oh, I'll just pay the money and then I'll be fit and I'll be ripped and I'll be everything that I want to be. You still got to do the work. But by going to a personal trainer, for example, typically people see much better results than by trying just buying a gym membership and going alone. There's the one-on-one element. There's the accountability element. There's the tailored specifically. I'll watch exactly what you're doing in the gym if I'm a PT, and I say, okay, no, we need to do things this way. I can correct your exercises as you're doing them to help you get the most out of them. And it's the same with a career coach. We'll talk about what you've been doing that week. What's your approach? What was that interaction like with your manager? How are you communicating? How are you presenting yourself? How are you marketing yourself? How are you putting forward that you are the best person for whatever that next step is that you want? And beyond that, similar to the PT analogy, the personal trainer might help you go, oh, you should try this new exercise. You're like, I've never even heard of that before. What is that? How does it work? Same concept of, hey, have you considered, just like you were saying before, there's more than one way to be financially independent and help people. You don't have to be a doctor to do that. We share that in common. I do this because I love helping people. I love helping people get past these mental barriers, and then seeing their face when they achieve their goals is so satisfying. I do it for that satisfaction, and helping people is at the core of what I do. So by showing people alternative options, you're like, hey, I talk to a lot of people. Have you considered that you might be able to achieve your goals in this avenue or that avenue? And if you have multiple avenues to go down, you increase the likelihood of success, because you could probably find something that's even more suitable for you than what you'd automatically assumed. Like in your case, I need to be a doctor to help people. We work on so many assumptions as people. I did, especially earlier in my career, like I'm this, and the next logical step for me is I'm going to go from associate to senior associate. I'm going to go from that to team leader, and I'm going to go from team leader to manager. People just go, that's the obvious path. But the one thing that I can assure you, and I'd love to hear your experience on this in your career, is that no one has that single step at a time linear career path ladder. No one. I've not yet spoken to a person who goes, oh yeah, I took the exact path that I thought I was going to take at the start. What was your experience with that?
Yeah, it's really interesting because that kind of linear path is really characteristic of the medical profession. And earlier on, like 20 something years ago, I would work in the corporate world, climb the corporate ladder, become exec or C-suite or CEO, these types of things. But now there's no more this idea of job security and this kind of linear way. Out of all my colleagues, I'd probably say one of them has had that storybook career, just top notch and continuing, but very few, 99% have to go take X and then Y and then maybe come back to A, go to B. And their definition of success is not usually unexpected. Like they'll come to success, but it's not how they expected it. So that's the common theme.
So true. And in the path of what I do, a bunch of TikTok live stuff. Like I do live coaching sessions on TikTok, which is really just ask me anything about your career. People leave comments and I'll give them kind of feedback and advice as things going. I'm talking to high school students sometimes, and they're saying, what am I going to do after high school? Some of them think they've got their career mapped out. I'm going, mate, you need to settle down, because I guarantee you things are not going to go to plan. But by knowing things aren't going to go to plan and opening yourself up to these unexpected opportunities that may present themselves, and you're like, oh, I never really thought that was a possibility. That looks like something really interesting. As long as you understand the details of that opportunity and then make the assessment of, does this get me closer to the things that I care about and those things that align with my values? Yes, great. That's a good decision. Let's pursue it. Yeah, you really need to assess it for its validity with your own personal circumstances and your values. And that it helps you make those decisions instead of going shiny object, let's go here, let's go there, let's go there. So you got to hit that happy balance between taking on new opportunities and sticking out in certain areas that will help you consolidate your experience, build that foundation to help you take on those more senior roles, even if they're in a totally different industry, in a totally different field, or something so obscure that you never considered it. Briefly moving back to the kind of unconscious incompetence, we all have that at a level because there's so much stuff out there we just don't know about. I talk to a lot of people about their careers, but I still hear about things and I go, I've never heard of anyone who does that. Doctors are obvious. Everyone knows what doctors do. They know they're the doctors because everyone goes to see the doctor. People doing so many interesting things, people working in new and upcoming roles, things like cybersecurity. There's 8 different niche specializations within that and stuff I'd never heard of before. And I'm a guy that helps people with their careers. So that there's an absolute plethora of stuff out there that you don't know exists. We live in our own little worlds. So by opening yourself up to those unexpected opportunities, I find personally with the people that I work with and people that I've gone through my career with, they're the people that take those unexpected opportunities that align with their personal values and where they want to take their career. They're the ones that really progress quicker because they don't wait for the perfect opportunity. They seize the opportunity that's in front of them, and that's how they make their progress.
Very fascinating. Yeah, I love that. I love and then again, perfectionism is also one of these things that plagues doctors. So they avoid making a decision because they want everything to be perfect before they can. Yeah, and so that's why doctors struggle with career transitions a lot more. The younger generation is a little bit more open and flexible, and they consider different alternatives. How can people reach out to you and talk about career coaching and see if it's a good fit and follow your work?
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn constantly, as you might imagine, as a careers guy. So yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. You can look me up. Just type my name into the search bar. Beyond that, danfries.com is my website. You can find all my social links on there. You can find so the areas that I'm most active, LinkedIn and TikTok's not going to be for everyone, but it is a very interesting audience. If you just want a low commitment kind of way to see what I'm about, obviously something like watching a podcast is really good. But if you want to get live on TikTok and just dump some questions, try to trick me up, like there's all sorts of wild stuff happens on TikTok. Jump on. I do a live pretty much every day. It's a free for all, ask me anything. And if you've got like a specific problem that you're currently like having trouble managing your manager, or you're like, feel like you're missing some kind of missing element for taking that next step, pop it in the chat box and I will literally answer it live on air. I love doing that stuff. It's so unpredictable and it's highly entertaining in my experience too. But those are the best places to find me. LinkedIn, if you're a normal person and you like to engage and you can DM me and we can set up a time to chat, or TikTok if you like a little bit more chaotic kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really enjoyed this conversation. And for the audience, be sure to give Dan's socials a like and follow and reach out to him for coaching and see if it's the right fit and check out his TikTok live. So thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Chris.